Aberdeen is just a flood of entrepreneurs that spin out companies out of huge oil and gas companies and then would scale them up and when sell them a number of years later for millions. And I think that technology is driving all of that. And I think there's a real risk that can be lost if you don't have the right fiscal regulatory environment. You can lose that entrepreneurial spirit.
So we've just been talking about the North Sea at a crossroads. What are your feelings about how the North Sea looks?
It's a difficult time right now. I mean, we heard lots of conversations about regulatory issues, about systemic issues. I think capital is quite mobile. I think the workforce is struggling. But at the same time, I think there's an opportunity. I think we heard that word a number of times during the talk. I think there's an opportunity to make some real progress, to move things in the right direction and a transition, as everyone's saying, not step change, but transition.
Yeah. I feel like one of the trends that we've been seeing in the North Sea over the last sort of few years, amidst this kind of, obviously sort of challenging sort of fiscal environment, is one of consolidation, right? We've seen a number of kind of companies teaming up, essentially looking for scale, tax losses. How does that look from your perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, we're technology facilitators, I like to think. We're all about assisting companies protect technology, commercialize that technology, and get the most value from the technology. So I think, you hit the nose on the head there. I think companies, operators, especially in the North Sea and the UK, are looking at consolidation because there's efficiencies to be had there, but there's technical efficiencies to be had through some of the programs that are coming through some of the changes that are coming through. And we're really about facilitating that transition for them as they consolidate, as they increase M&A activity, and as they have to resolve the issues that come along with that.
And I suppose, look, you're kind of very much in the IP business, right? Like, I mean, I feel like when we think about, these kind of consolidations, these mergers, I feel like we don't maybe think enough about sort of, the IP, how that things work. What are we missing by not thinking more about IP at this point?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, our recent energy white paper looked at how much innovative companies have raised in the last 10 years. And it was, correct me if I think 15.3 billion they've raised in the last 10 years, innovative companies. And yet there's a gap, about 840 million of those companies that have patents that have protected that IP and protected that assets, and those which have not. And that is very important when companies are consolidating, when they're looking at M&A. They're more and more so looking at the intangible assets of a company, and they're looking at what value can that add and what synergies can they really achieve when they're consolidating fields, which could be really important going forward. I mean, there's huge technical challenges around, for example, TEX. I'm going to forget what the acronym is now, but the tiebacks, so existing fields being able to tie adjacent acreage. No one quite knows what that looks like, but there is a technical challenge there. And so having a USP like IP becomes really important and makes a company that much more attractive when you're looking at all these increased M&A and consolidation.
And so what are the sort of the problems that a company might face if they're not ahead of this kind of this IP question?
Yeah, I mean, so one part there is the technical side, but I mean, more and more digital is becoming so important to companies. I mean, how can they really differentiate? How can they get these economies of scale? How can they model so that they can reduce risk and really know what's coming? Digital AI is becoming so important there. But when you're looking at two different cultures, what might that mean for the AI policies? Could be quite difficult. A smaller company, independent, that's perhaps being bought up by a larger one, has very open source policy. They use open source models. Well, that might require everything to be made public, which is a huge IP risk. I mean, it's huge proprietary information. Ownership of software can be really important when you own all sort of third-party software, using third-party software. Who owns it? Again, that due diligence part around IP is really important when you're looking at consolidation. So I think there's almost a silent battleground there that could be coming in digital and AI that companies are not really aware of.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when you say they're not aware of it, like, I mean, I feel like, is that changing? Is that kind of question, is it improving? Because obviously we've seen this kind of consolidations coming. Sure, we're kind of building up some sort of idea of how they're working.
I think that you're seeing it at sort of the C-level suite. You're seeing chief information officers. You're seeing that kind of role become more important and maybe a bit more connected with CFOs, with M&A activity, with finance, so that they can ask those questions early on. Because it's not that I think they're someone's aware of it eventually, but perhaps not as early as they should be. So they're not doing proper due diligence. So I do think that that is becoming a bigger part of the equation, but there's still, I still think it's a bit of a submerged, possible big issue to come.
Yeah. And so look, thinking about, your perspective on how the North Sea is looking, what do you see as the sort of the big blocker? What would you like to change?
I mean, I'm a technical guy, so I could easily say things about the windfall tax and all the regulation. I mean, I didn't grow up in the North Sea. I didn't grow up in Aberdeen, but I do see the expertise that this region has and really the entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, it's so amazing. Aberdeen is just flood of entrepreneurs that spin out companies out of huge oil and gas companies and then would scale them up and when sell them a number of years later for millions. And I think that technology is driving all of that. And I think there's a real risk that can be lost if you don't have the right fiscal regulatory environment. You can lose that entrepreneurial spirit. And with everything that's coming, AI and all the rest of it, I think business leaders and developers and those entrepreneurs are going to be the last job that sticks around. And if you don't protect that, it'll disappear, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're already seeing the job losses and the concerns that are happening in the industry. But if you don't protect an environment that facilitates and encourages entrepreneurs and really technology entrepreneurs, you'll lose it. And I think that's the biggest risk in my sector